'Tis the season for giving, and the Inn at 500's holiday gift package is the perfect present. For only $299, you'll give or receive a cozy night in a deluxe king room to enjoy in 2025, valet parking, $100 for on-site dining, and you can make it even merrier and upgrade to a suite for only $100 more. This deal is only available until December 24th, so call 208-227-0500 or visit inat500.com/holiday gift package. Give joy, give luxury, give the Inn at 500. Boise, are you already tired of the inversion? Why not escape to the lush forests of the Oregon coast? Salishan Coastal Lodge by SCPs is waiting to welcome you, whether you're looking for adventure or a chance to unwind. Make time to reconnect with yourself, loved ones, and nature while enjoying 20% off stays with code CITYCAST. From spa treatments to zip lining and forest hikes, Salishan has everything you're looking for in a getaway. Make 2025 a year of intentional restorative travel. Book your stay at salishan.com with code CITYCAST to save 20% and start the year with purpose and connection. Today on CityCast Boise, Stella's ice cream is making headlines, but not for their sweet treats after being fined for child labor law violations and tip wage theft. Meanwhile, the City of Trees is paving the way for a greener future with zero emissions parking permits. Plus, we've got great ideas for all ages holiday fun. It's Friday, December 20th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Happy Friday, everyone. And this is our last Friday News Roundup of 2024. So we had to bring a really special guest, and joining me today is Charlie Hunt, political scientist at Boise State University. Thanks for joining me today, Charlie.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. What an honor on the last Friday Roundup.
So the first story I definitely wanted to get into was what's going on with Stella's ice cream. Now, lots of people in the Valley, picture Stella's down home, family-run ice cream shop. But there's been quite a bit of scandal surrounding them lately, and I'm really curious your thoughts about it.
I have a lot of thoughts about it, yeah, especially because I live just a few blocks away from the Stella's on State Street over in Collister. And it had recently, over the past couple of years, replaced the Baskin-Robbins that was there. And I was excited, right? Like you said, sort of local, kind of family run. And the ice cream is great. But there were reports last week that the Stella's was forced to pay a fine of over $320,000 for violating child labor laws. And, child labor laws, this can mean a bunch of different things. But in this case, it was, keeping 14 or 15-year-old employees there past 7 p.m., which would break federal regulations, except between June 1st and Labor Day, when that time is extended to 9 p.m. But they basically, these young workers were working towards and past 11 p.m., which is a violation of both like the Idaho statutes and the federal labor laws. And, these are laws going back decades, and there's something that we take really seriously. And, that is a pretty hefty fine, but it is something we definitely want to keep an eye out for. So not great practices there going on for Stella's.
Well, and there was a wide variety. I was maybe most surprised by the variety of violations. This wasn't just like, they had some 15-year-olds there at 10 p.m. instead of leaving at 9 p.m. Whoopsie doopsie. Like, they had these 14 and 15-year-olds. There were violations for them driving work vehicles, working industrial equipment that isn't safe for kids. And there was even an issue with tip theft, in addition to them working all these hours. And that I was, I'm like, I guess I'm glad people are investigating these local businesses, because there was a lot going on. And if you're 14 or 15-year-old, I'm going to guess you likely don't know your rights when it comes to child labor laws. That's why these exist, is to protect kids.
I mean, I don't know about you, Lindsay. Like, when I was 15, 16, I'm from New England. So of course I worked at Dunkin' Donuts, and, I worked opening shifts sometimes, and it wasn't always easy. But God knows I was not thinking about like, oh, I wonder if like my employer is exploiting me or if they are trying to take advantage of me. And because you're kids, like
Yeah.
you're minors. The whole idea behind these laws is that we are through these laws and regulations protecting workers who don't have the means or the resources or the know-how yet to protect themselves within the legal system. And so that's why these laws are so stringent. It's why this penalty was so enormous. And like you said, it was the variety. I mean, the operating industrial machinery, which you are not supposed to have teenage workers doing. And I have to say the issue with tips. So this was a practice that Stella's had of sharing tips earned by tipped workers. So the teenagers you see that are actually serving you ice cream,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the
These
scoopers.
Right. When I'm buying ice cream, right, and I give a tip, I expect it's going to those kids who are serving me the ice cream. But they was sharing these tips earned by tipped workers with managers and supervisors, and that is a violation of federal regulations. And this led to almost $80,000 in back wages and what they called liquidated damages for 208 employees across Stella's, mini empire going back several years through, I think, 2022. And, again, as someone who worked one of these jobs growing up, like the tips I earned at the wonderful Dunkin' Donuts were at least as much as my actual wage, as my actual salary. And especially during a time when there's debate going on about whether to raise the minimum wage and things like that, without a high minimum wage, these kids rely on these tips, and certainly the managers and supervisors don't. So, I mean, this is definitely sort of a core worker issue as well as kind of an age issue playing out here.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting. The owner or the CEO, Chad Hartley, said that they were just trying to be fair, that they were just take the tips at the end of the night, pool them, and split them evenly among everyone who had been working, and that it was an issue of like fairness or equality, which I think is really interesting because, yeah, same. I worked as a bagger at a grocery store, and then I worked at Subway, and it was pretty common knowledge. I mean, this was a while ago, but even at that point, if you were a manager or a shift manager, you were getting more money, so you didn't get tips. Like you had a wage that reflected like, I'm a manager, so I'm not getting the tips. Even if you're helping make a sandwich, even if you're helping, ring people up, you're making $1 more an hour, 75 cents more an hour. So you aren't getting those tips. That is for the other employees. And so, Chad Hartley said, like, this all stemmed from a lack of knowledge and we didn't realize. But I'm like, in the industry 20 years ago, it was known, like, you don't split tips among managers. So what's going on here?
No, this is basic stuff that, it is your responsibility as a manager, as an owner of a business, to do this due diligence, to understand local laws, state laws, federal laws. Like, he cited specifically the federal child labor laws, which differ from the state of Idaho's regulations. But my read on the situation is that he violated both. So I'm not really sure why that is a particular issue. Like, yes, federal versus state laws can be confusing. And that is something that I think a lot of small business owners in their defense struggle with sometimes in terms of, how do we keep up with these different or changing laws? But in this case, this is stuff that's been on the books for a long time. And yeah, I mean, when I would get my tips, like, yes, we would split them all, but between the people who were, the tipped workers who were out there working on shift, who were the recipients of the tips. And that was just sort of taken for granted. And yeah, I would have been probably not so happy if I learned that like my manager, who was like a fully grown person, like working there in their career, was like skimming from my tips, and even that like my share was going to him. And I think, with regard to what the owner was saying, he basically said like, this was all accidental. It was all unintentional. But the investigators involved here at the federal level said, quote, these violations indeed were found to be willful, that the definition of willful under the Fair Labor Standards Act includes the reckless disregard for the requirements of the act. Basically, if you are so willfully ignorant, like that counts the same as if you had just literally like taken money out of the till. And so that's what the key issue is here, I think.
Yeah, and I thought that quote was so good. I'm so glad. I saw that on several stations that reported this, especially like Idaho News 6, because the CEO statement it's a whole lot of, if you read through it, it's a whole lot of, we just didn't know. How could we know? How are we supposed to know? Oh my gosh, I can't keep track of everything. Like it was kind of mind-blowing where I'm like, your response doesn't get to be ignorance. Like that.
No.
We have seen with communities that are targeted or, that they never get ignorance as a plea. You never going to be like, I just didn't know the law. And so it's just so wild to me that the CEO thought like, I just didn't know. How was I supposed to know? And like, yes, I get it's a local business. I get like, that's the job. When we talk about like, well, owners should make more because they're carrying more responsibility. Like they're taking risks. That's the risk. That's part of this responsibility is you're supposed to know the laws to protect your employees, to protect your business. So if you are willfully disregarding the laws or not becoming informed about the laws, then what are you doing? Like that fully falls on you. Like as a parent, I can't be like, oh, I didn't know how to keep my kids safe. How was I supposed to know? That's my job.
Well, that's the other thing is like, at the very least, we hope, even if you don't know what the law is, we hope you would exercise basic common sense, which says like, no, you shouldn't keep 14-year-olds until like 11:30 at night. And probably you shouldn't like skim from their tips too. So fail all around, it sounds like.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous two-year contracts, they said, what the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass f- So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
Charlie, you recently told me something kind of exciting. You got a new vehicle. What did you get? And then you had some exciting news about Boise regarding it.
Yes, I know that me getting a new car is exactly the kind of big news that your listeners are hoping for on the Friday Roundup. But I know they've been dying to know. So the reason it matters, I mean, I love getting a new car, but it's an EV, an electric vehicle, which is sort of a whole new world I'm learning about. This is my first EV. Obviously, the EV market has been, growing a lot over the past several years as the technology has improved and as we've had a number of sort of federal laws like the Inflation Reduction Act that have, made attempts to make it easier to get EVs, to buy them, because they've traditionally been quite expensive. So, I'm learning a lot about how to do this and setting up the home charger and all this stuff. But as soon as I got it, my wonderful sister-in-law texted me telling me about this program I had no idea about, but I gather it's been around for at least a few years, from the city of Boise. And it's this zero-emission vehicle, or ZEV, parking permit. And the way it works is if you have an EV, a zero-emission vehicle, a vehicle that isn't producing any carbon emissions in whatever fashion, then you pay $10 a year for this permit. And with this permit, you are exempt from any metered parking payments in the city.
Wow.
And so this doesn't mean you can park just forever and indefinitely. You're still restricted by like the 2-hour limits or the 4-hour limits that are posted on the sidewalks like we see all the time. But, your car, your plates automatically go into the system as, not going to get ticketed and not going to, face those same penalties. But it's $10. I mean, I spend that much in parking downtown probably at least every 2 weeks, probably even in less than that.
Yeah, like if you're going to do like 2 days downtown, we're like, oh, we're going to go shopping this one day and then we're going to go to dinner this night and out. Like you can easily spend double that. So
Yeah.
that's such a good deal for the whole year.
Yeah, it's an incredible deal. It is. I mean, it's not. I didn't know about it before I got the EV, but if I had known about it, that would have gotten me to the dealership even faster. And, I think it's really interesting in the context of these other federal incentives, right? So I mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act. So, these are electric vehicle tax credits. So they are, at least as they currently stand, $8,000 tax credits for new electric vehicles and $4,000 for used EVs, which is the one I was able to take advantage of. And that tax credit, right, absolutely made it possible for me to buy this. I can't afford a brand new electric vehicle. I can't afford a new Tesla or anything. But I mean, it's really nice because I think that the EV market has become cheaper and more accessible in recent years. You now have used EVs on the market that have a really solid range of, 150 miles on one charge or more, compared to, say, a few years ago when the used EVs from like 2014 or 2015 really could only maybe get like 60 or 70 miles per charge. And so, having these tax credits plus these lower overall prices on used EVs makes it totally possible for someone like me who is not immensely wealthy to get an electric vehicle.
Well, and talking about the length of that charge or what you can get out of that charge, I know that has been kind of an issue. We live in a pretty rural state, and so something that has limited accessibility, but beyond just the price, is how far can you get? Like, what is the actual value you're getting out of this when you live in a very rural state with limited charging capabilities. So I thought it was really cool. There was some news recently that a Boise-based nonprofit, the Treasure Valley Clean Cities Coalition, is partnering with other coalitions throughout Western states to find connect sites for electric vehicles to make charging more accessible in these rural places. And they've recognized that is a big issue. Getting electric vehicles in states like Idaho is, yeah, if you can afford one that was, 2016, 2017, but you're only getting so many miles, there's not charging in more rural places, you're probably not going to opt for that vehicle. And so they are like looking at these smaller and even like scenic routes throughout the state to, hey, yeah, go drive on the highway. You can charge your vehicle. It's not going to be a problem. You're not going to break down on some back road in Idaho. And so I do think that there are movements to make electric vehicles truly accessible to people.
Yeah, I think all of these different sort of policy areas are geared towards eliminating as many barriers as possible towards having an electric vehicle. So, for example, my EV, it's a 2020, right? It gets probably like on a flat road about 160 miles per full charge, which is great. I mean, I only drive it, no more than 10, 15 miles at a time usually. So it's not a big deal. And it can make it, my wife and I took a trip to McCall a few weeks ago, and we were able to, make it to McCall, charge up there, and then come home a couple days later. So for some of those smaller trips, it works. But, what you just mentioned, this program called Charge West, it's a partnership actually across 8 states. So the idea in the Intermountain West, so the idea is you put more charging stations along these scenic highways, and it at least opens up the possibility of doing longer road trips. Like if I want to go down, to Bryce Canyon, or I want to, go all the way down to the Grand Canyon or something, like it becomes a possibility for me to stop, charge up quickly, and then stay on the road so that that's not a barrier for me. And this technology is only going to improve in the future, and a lot of other states are on board with this. So I'm really excited to see where this goes in conjunction with some of these more local policies that we've seen from the city of Boise, which, as anyone who's driven by City Hall in the past few years knows, we're aiming for this net zero carbon emissions by 2050, right? And, the city estimates that about 36% of the city's annual greenhouse gas emissions were attributed to transportation around Boise. And so that's one of the main targets. And so as part of not just improving the quality of living here and, the experience of being in the city, it's also obviously trying to tackle this larger goal of combating climate change and greenhouse gases. And I'm excited to see where, all this stuff doesn't go fast enough for me, but I'm excited to see where some of these different things go.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
In the time it takes us to say we're making a damn delicious caramel iced coffee with Folgers Instant Coffee, you know we're all about that drizzle. You could be savoring every sip. Damn right. It's Folgers Instant.
Okay, now it's time for our picks of the week. And this is just, it can really be anything, but just something that you think is really cool around town. Somebody's doing something amazing, something you're looking forward to. And I'm really curious for our last Friday News Roundup, what is your pick of the week?
Yeah, so my pick of the week is a pick that's replacing basically what would have been my pick of the week for many consecutive ones over the past few years. When it was still open, I was a frequent patron of Spacebar Arcade. Before they moved, after they moved, they had all these different real estate issues, and eventually they had to close a few months ago. But since that time, I have I've gone towards Realms Arcade, which is just down on 23rd Street. It's been open for a while, and I knew that it had existed, but it's become my go-to for sort of nostalgic 80s arcade games. Lots and lots of pinball machines. It's got, lots of different arcade games, a ton of stuff to do. And they're a little different from Spacebar for listeners that may have used to patronize Spacebar. It's, one flat fee of $10 and then it's free play, right?
Oh,
so
really?
Rather than doing the token system, which Spacebar did, and they did have those cool tokens, but it's, you pay $10 and you can go in and play as much as you want, more or less for as long as you want, as long as you don't abuse it. So it's got free play. It's got a lot of those classic arcade games. Miss Pac-Man is a favorite of mine. They have a really, for Lord of the Rings fans, an amazing Lord of the Rings pinball machine that I spend way too much time at. They also have food, they have drinks, they have events, they have karaoke. Tonight, actually, they have a Linkin Park tribute, a night of new metal music videos and live tributes. And as a 8th grade, 9th grade me would be absolutely stoked about this. So
yeah, no, they're really playing to the millennials. They know their audience.
Yeah, well, and it's such a wave of nostalgia for millennials, especially older millennials who might remember some of these games. And, it doesn't have everything that Spacebar had. It doesn't have that you can't rent the Nintendo 64 or anything like that. But it does have some awesome games, great vibes. It's a really unique place, and it's affordable too. So I'm a big fan of Realms. It's where I like to go, on an evening I have free where I just need to unwind and unplug and play some pinball.
I'm really curious. I know that you said they had drinks. Is this
Yeah.
someplace I could take my kids, or is this a 21 plus?
Yeah, so this was one drawback of Space Bar, which was 21 plus. Realms, I am pretty sure you can take kids. That the sort of gaming area is sort of separate, and you do have to do those flat fees. But yes, it is not 21 plus. So definitely, I think you can take kids there.
Okay, that'll be good because we were recently at RC Willie looking at some stuff, and they have a bunch of pinball machines, and our kids were just going bananas for that.
Yeah, and I mean, I would make sure, especially if you're going to go there with kids, make sure, especially in the evening, make sure it's not, maybe you don't want to go when they have karaoke or one of these louder, sometimes they have concerts and that can get a little loud.
Yeah.
But especially if you go like in the late afternoon, like you should be good to go. And rock out to some NBA Jam. I mean, what else can you ask for?
I think we're definitely going to be there over the holiday break.
All right, Lindsay, how about you?
So my pick of the week is Glide on the Grove in downtown Boise. And we went to go check it out because it's completely free. And so I wanted to see, like, is it completely free? And then, like, how is it if it's completely free? And it's so much fun. They do a fantastic job. And it's put on by Boise Parks and Rec, and they have lots of sponsors. But it really is like all of it's free. You don't need any equipment. It isn't one where it's like, it's free, but bring your skates and no, like they've got the skates, they've got the helmets. They have different things. Some of my kids are differently skilled at ice skating. And
Sure.
so, yeah, they have equipment to help make it, safe and everybody's having a good time. And it was just a really fun evening. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this feels like community. This feels like a great community activity. I love that it's free, so everybody has access to it. You don't need any equipment or anything. And they, have great schedules. So, Wednesday through Friday, they're open 4 to 8 p.m., Saturdays, noon to 8, Sundays, noon to 6. They will be closed on Christmas Day. So if you were thinking about Christmas Day ice skating, this is not the place. And they do want you there more than 30 minutes before they close to get all your rentals. Because it does take a minute, like getting everything sizing. So they don't want to do all that and then you skate for 3 minutes.
So not open on Christmas, but they do have that. That's where sort of the giant city of Boise, Christmas tree is, right? So you can still get in the holiday spirit leading up to the holidays. I might have to do that.
And today, they're actually going to be having a wine commission pop-up event. And so you can go ice skating. They're going to have people from 3 Idaho wineries, so you can sample some local wines, buy some wine for the holidays, go ice skating with your family for free. And like you said, there's the giant Christmas tree there. The grove is all lit up. It just really is so picturesque. It feels a little bit like a Hallmark movie, and it's completely free. So I love that. Always on a budget, especially around the holidays. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay. Well, it's going to be hard for me to choose between the Lincoln Park tribute at Realms tonight and the wine at the skating rink. So I think I'll just have to do both.
I think that is a great plan. I mean, they're only open till 8. So then you can go hit up Realms.
Absolutely.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much. I think this was a fantastic Friday News Roundup, our very last one for 2024. Thank you so much for joining me.
I appreciate you having me.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. This week, the show is produced by Evelyn Avitia, Frankie Barnhill, Anthony Luciani, and me, Lindsay Van Allen. Blake Hunter writes our Hey Boise newsletter with editing help from Adrian Gonzalez, and our music is by Up Is The Down Is The. We're taking a break between now and the new year, but we're sharing a few of our favorite episodes from 2024 to keep you company. And we'll be back on January 2nd with a new monthly guide. Happy holidays, Boise.